It is Monday, May 15th, 2017. For some of you, that's payday. Welcome. My name is Luke Thomas. This is the Monday Morning Analyst here on MMAfighting.com. Thank you so much for joining me. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. This is the first one I've done in a few weeks because I've been on vacation. Well, I was back last week, but there was no MMA Analyst because I didn't get back till that Sunday. You know the story, but here we are, ready to break down UFC 211. So as you know, 3 parts to the podcast, a review of the weekend's big action, take a look at something in particular in the second segment, and then the third segment, take a look at what's coming up in the week ahead. Let's do that without any further delay. UFC 211. This took place at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, with an attendance of 17,834 with a gate of $2,662,645. Now, I always do a post-fight show on my own YouTube channel right after the fights. If you want to see that, you can take a look at it. I'll post it. I believe it'll be up on this side of the screen, but you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. So you can go check that out. But let's get into it now. I've rewatched a lot of the fights, so I've got a little bit more thought developed for this one. All right, Stipe Miocic taking on Junior dos Santos at 2:22 of the first round. What do you want to say about this one? When I went back and watched it this morning, something really occurred to me, and I was like, how did Stipe get in range so quickly with JDS? What you notice is he never really takes a step back at any point, but more than that, what ended up happening was, and you see this a little bit in the Vick Polo Reyes fight, JDS was doing something, everyone's like he was moving into the fence a lot, and he was. But part of the reason he was moving into the fence was you saw him, like he was in the Rothwell fight, jabbing to the body. Now, he had those leg kicks too, and those were really nice. He never really got a whole lot of them off. 2, I think, landed great. 1 kind of landed, but maybe sort of checked as well. So that was a great part of what Junior dos Santos was doing. But one thing I didn't really understand is going to the body in the way he did. I don't really feel, I mean, I know he wants to set it up, you know, so he can slow a guy down, but this isn't Rothwell who sort of walks, I don't think Rothwell has the same kind of agile, accurate, efficient movement forward that Miocic does. So what happens is a lot of times, if you jab to the body and you don't get out of the way fast enough, you can get hit, or a lot of times guys will jab and then retreat too much, and that allowed Miocic to get right in on him. Interestingly, Miocic was also headhunting in this fight. He wasn't trying to go to the body at all. I don't know if that's a natural tendency of his that we need to examine. I don't know if it's because he thinks that Dos Santos is shop-worn. I don't know exactly. But what I do know was you see Dos Santos back up. Yes, big mistake. Had the leg kicks. That was nice. It's the jabbing to the body I didn't really understand. Miocic no-sold it, and it allowed him to collapse that space and get Dos Santos right up against it in ways that maybe it shouldn't have in a different circumstance. So, something for Dos Santos to review going forward. Joanna Jedrzejczyk defeating Jessica Andrade, 50-45 on 2 scorecards and 50-44. What's interesting to me is, I mean, you can go over a lot of different ways in which she has done well, and I'm going to do that in the week coming up ahead. I got a little surprise for you guys coming, but for now, I'll just say a couple of things. I mean, look, totally outclassed Jessica Andrade. I had to give credit to Andrade. She didn't do a whole lot in this fight, except show an incredible amount of strength and heart. But she, you know, what could she do? She did, right? She's not that capable, but what she is capable of, she was able to bring to bear. So I give her credit for that. I think the thing that just sort of weirds me out a little bit is, with Jedrzejczyk, I don't know who's going to beat her at this division at this point. You know, between the angle she can show, she can throw a shot, throw a shot, throw a shot, and you get kind of used to the timing of it and the direction she might go, and then she'll change the pacing of it and the angle of it. I also think Andrade did a really poor job of cage cutting. I talked about that on my post-fight show. You can check that out there. But to me, the real question is, like, who is going to beat Jedrzejczyk? I really have no idea. Between her ability to have a great gas tank, between her ability to keep distance, she can fight brawlers, she can fight wrestlers, she can fight other strikers. It's going to be someone who has a physical advantage over her. We're not just like the ones you see here. I mean like a substantive one, a weight class one. That's going to be one I think maybe somebody can really put it on. And when someone can really hurt her with strikes, make her change what she's doing. Because as you can see, she just gets warmer and warmer and warmer. She pops the jab, she angles out. Her footwork is constantly in motion, so you're not going to make her tired. But if you can make her hurt, you can second guess that. And Andrade tried with these like leaping hooks. One of the things she also did that I liked, and I pointed this out in my post-fight show as well, was not merely that pumping the jab at a certain pace and then throwing the cross at a different pace, getting someone used to some kind of rhythm and speed and then changing it up with both angles and speed. She did that as well. But one thing she did that I liked was Andrade sort of like cocks back from the left and fires. You could see Jedrzejczyk put her hand on the shoulder, that same shoulder, which one will decrease the movement a little bit, but will always keep you at the right distance, and then you can make a pick about what direction you want to go, left or right. Just totally outclassing her. Right? Totally outclassing her. So I give credit to Andrade. All we can ask of a UFC fighter is bring your skills to bear. You should be able to compete at the high level, but you can look at her record, who she's beaten. She's beaten really good fighters, including Angela Hill and Joanne Calderwood in terms of Andrade. All you can do is bring those skills to bear to the maximum amount you had. And that's what she did. It turns out that that's far short of what Jedrzejczyk has, but I'm not mad at her for fighting in the way that she did. That's just who she is, and you really have to give credit. I mean, this is the queen of combat sports right now. No two ways about it, and I don't know who's going to beat her at this weight class. Maybe Rose Namajunas. You never know, but I would certainly favor Jedrzejczyk at this point. Between her ability to fight to get off of her back, between her ability to negate wrestling, between her strength in the clinch, best jab arguably in MMA, unceasing gas tank, excellent footwork, just dominant in every way. Demian Maia versus Jorge Masvidal, we're going to take a look at in the second segment. Frankie Edgar versus Yair Rodrigeuz. At 5 minutes of the second round, it was stopped by the doctor, apparently. That's how they're calling it here at TKO. Number one, the lack of end swell after the first round. I went back and I watched the fight this morning. The cut on his eye that was on this side, it was next to the nostril. It was here. Now look how far away that is from my eye. And you've got a cut man addressing that first. It makes almost no sense. It makes, total malpractice in the corner of Yair Rodrigeuz. I don't know whose call it was to not use the end swell, whether it was the cut man or maybe the cornerman said something. I don't know. But that was bad. Really, really bad. In the end, what you will say is, well, Edgar was just better anyway. Okay, fair enough. But you at least got to give a guy a fighting chance. I had someone reach out to me on Twitter saying, well, wasn't the big problem that his fighting style and the lack of, or the distance between the two, both physically and literally, allowed for Yair to get banged on and as a consequence hurt in that way? Yes, of course. But the cut man is supposed to do what he can to repair that. He's not there necessarily to say, your fighting style is making my work harder. He's supposed to just look at what he gets and say, what can I do to repair this? And given his opportunity to do something about it, he didn't. And that's a problem for me. Credit to Yair for saying he could see when he couldn't, but nevertheless. The thing I went back and I also watched was if you're playing guard, right? You're going to commit to playing guard, which playing guard against the fence against Frankie Edgar seems like a very bad idea. Two things you need to keep in mind. And you saw him do it almost once. He was trying to control the guy on top's posture with a collar tie. Folks, that's not going to work. Even a double collar tie is not going to keep them down. You have to have a gi grip to keep them down, or you need to have an overhook and then a collar tie. Otherwise, they're not going to stay there. And if you want to keep them on top of you, because that's where the subs are. You hold them there, and then you create space underneath, and then you can get your hips in and around them. But you got to be close together. If you're here, there's no sub. If you're here, there's no sub. Here, you can set one up. And he wasn't doing that. He had that one time he had that arm around, and Frankie Edgar was putting his hands on the mats. So the opportunity was there, but he just wasn't. He was just trying to control with a collar tie. It's never going to work. The other thing he was kind of doing was, and by the way, credit to Edgar for leaning into him the way he did and kind of riding position. Not an obvious thing, but you saw Rodrigeuz kind of open his guard, kind of go for like a knee shield. And it was just a really bad thing because when you do that, you don't want to be halfway in between. You want to be all the way close or feet on the hips push, like Demetrius Johnson did to Henry Cejudo. Why? Because if you just put your feet in their hips and you don't extend, or you have like a knee shield, you are giving them the exact distance they need to bang on you, which is exactly what he did. Or if they're on top of you and they're going to, crashing short elbows, that's when that overhook and that collar tie comes into place, which he wasn't doing either. So, big gap between the skills of Frankie Edgar and Yair Rodrigeuz. Rodrigeuz has a long way to go. He's very talented. I think it tells you a lot about the state of BJ Penn, too, by the way. But you could just tell he was badly overmatched here. A lot of guard work to work on. David Branch versus Krzysztof Jotko. He wins, so a split decision, 29-28, and 2 scorecards, 28-29 on the other. Terrible fight, not worth talking about. Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier gets stopped at 4:12 of the second round. I give credit to Eddie Alvarez for warming up and really sticking in the pocket. My view is you have no way of knowing about whether or not this was an attempt to flagrantly disregard the rules. Remember, the commission in Texas doesn't acknowledge the new unified rules, so I think it's going to be confusing for all the parties involved. Eddie Alvarez had just had his brain scrambled. How he survived the heavy punching of Dustin Poirier, I'll never know, but he did. And then he gets on top and he lands those 2 knees. They were clearly illegal, and the referee decided, and Herb Dean's going to be on my radio show later, Herb decided that he was going to call it an accidental, which is well within his right. You can check out Eric McGracken on Twitter or at combatsportslaw.com, and you can see that it's well within his right to do. So I don't know how this is going to go for Dustin in terms of being able to change things for himself. But the point being is, to me, there's 2 ways to solve this, or maybe 3 ways to solve this problem. Number 1, just take away intentionality. Did he mean to flagrantly disregard an ethical standard, or did he not? Either you committed or the foul, or you didn't. That's one way. Second way is potentially just change the rule where a knee has to be down. If they have any knee down, doesn't matter 1 hand or 2, that might clarify some things. Or 3, I've seen some people say, well, just make all knees to the head of a downed opponent legal. But the problem with that is, number 1, that seems inherently unsafe. And even if it wasn't, I just can imagine regulators not finding that to be a really palatable, realistic solution. So I don't know what the answer to this is. But to me, commissions who aren't getting on board with what the ABC is doing, you are compounding problems. You are making it hard for yourself. And yes, of course, the other reason is everyone's like, Herb Dean made the wrong call. Maybe he made the wrong call. I'm not arguing with you. But if you're a referee and you're there in the heat of the moment and you have no visual evidence by which to overturn it, I'm not sure how mad you can be at Herb Dean. The best Ed Hockley and the best referees in the NFL, they make bad calls all the time. But they get challenged and they have a chance to review it, and sometimes they reverse it. It's not a taboo or mystery thing. Sometimes they're like, you know what? There's the evidence right there. Sure, got it wrong. Call's reversed. Bang. You know, you get to keep your time out there, Bill Belichick. We don't have that. So saying Herb Dean made the wrong call to me is like not a very strong criticism, or one that I should take too seriously, because it's not that you're wrong. How right can he be without the ability to review evidence? It's a nightmare. Jason Knight defeating Chaz Skelly, another one I watched, beating him in 39 seconds in the 3rd round. He got him with a straight uppercut combo, leaping into range. I think switching stances in mid-range. He'd been throwing it the whole fight because Chaz Skelly kept leading with the left, and it was a wide left too. So he would wait for some kind of tell. Jason Knight jab and then uppercut behind it. Uppercut cracks him clean as he dives into range, collapsing that pocket, and he overtook him there. The best thing about it to me was the omoplata sweeps coming up on top, no selling the wrestling of Chaz Skelly, and by the way, getting his own takedowns, but then using rubber guard to omoplata to sweep, and then sweep to stand. So an impressive performance by Jason Knight. This is somebody to watch. On my Facebook page at facebook.com/LukeThomasNews, I asked fans, what's one of the biggest stories that MMA media is not talking about? And everyone's got a variety of responses, but one of the ones that kept showing up, and I'll put that list here in the description box below, one of the things that kept showing up was no one's talking about Jason Knight, and he deserves more attention. I completely agree. Chase Sherman and Rashad Coulter putting on a hell of a show. That gets stopped at 3:36 of the 2nd round. Chase Sherman, man, was tearing him up with those leg kicks, but then couldn't quite close the show, gassed himself, and was trying to headhunt and finish it in punching range. So he kept getting rocked as a consequence, but eventually I think he landed 2 more leg kicks, got in close range, and then popped him with a right elbow, and that sent Coulter crashing to the mat. Incredible heart shown by both guys, especially Rashad Coulter. James Vick defeating Marco Polo Reyes at 2:39 of the 1st round. This is what I'm talking about when I mentioned the jab to the body. But in this particular case, it worked out in Vick's. Vick had maintained better distance the whole fight. You'll see he would be jabbing, and Reyes would try and respond and just come up whiffing every time, right in front of the nose, just short every time. So Vick had a really strong command of distance early, and he jabs to the body, pulls back, thinks about throwing another left, and then cracks him with the right. But the point being is when you jab and you lower your level, a lot of guys want to eat it, and then they want to tag you. They'll react in real time. And he pulls, and then when Reyes comes back out of range himself, his hands go down so that he cracked him with the right. Great presence of mind by James Vick to be able to execute on that. Courtney Casey defeating Jessica Aguilar, 30-27 across the board. Poor Jessica Aguilar, man. She's a really talented fighter coming out of World Series of Fighting. She's supposed to be the next big thing. Had a tough fight in her UFC debut, then gets injured, then comes back. And, you know, Courtney Casey has really improved. I always thought highly of her. I thought her UFC run got off to a bit of a rough start, but she's shown exactly what I thought she could be. Great hand speed, wonderful combinations going around and through the guard. Obviously, Joe Rogan talked about the up kick game that she had been really working on. Not really the up kick game, but just disrupting someone underneath. It's not really about the kicking, more as it is the kicking of the knee, kicking high, and then with the other leg, what she was doing was trying to get a De La Riva hook, right? Trying to get a butterfly hook, just constantly disrupting the person underneath, or excuse me, on top, while you're underneath to keep them guessing. That's the trick to the up kick game, it seems like, is yes, you got to find your shots with the kick, but while you're doing that, the other leg needs to be hooking, disrupting, sitting up, right? That's sort of the trick there, and she seemed to have gotten that quite well. Enrique Barzola defeating Gabriel Benitez. You know, Gabriel Benitez lost this one, but I liked how he used his guard and submission attempts to capture his base and then stand. He knew wrestling for wrestling, he wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot. It's the same with Johnny Hendricks and Matt Brown. Matt Brown can't wrestle with Johnny Hendricks. Or maybe even Robbie Lawler. But what he can do is he can go for like a knee bar, and from that knee bar he can get a guy to escape, and when he does that, he can create space to stand up. This is a little bit different, not quite the same sequence, but he'd go for arm bars, they'd miss, he'd roll to his base, circle in with a hand behind the waist to stand up, push away. You know, that's an interesting use of guard. You know, you threaten submissions off someone off your back, find a way to stand. It wasn't enough in the end, but I like how he was able to make that work. By the way, I'm glad that the one shot that knocked him down, I think it was at the end of the second or third round, didn't count against him fully. I would not have agreed with that. And then Gedzi Morat and Antigolov defeating Joaquin Christensen at 221 of the first round. I'm trying to think if there's any other corner issues that I had. That's probably it. Your bonus winners, Chase Sherman and Rashad Coulter, and then was the fight of the night, and then Stipe Miocic and Jason Knight, all getting an additional 50 grand. I will rate this card an A-. That is the grade I would give it. A couple things that kept it from going too great, including that I think UFC was trying to set up a lot of, you know, change between like the Masvidal and Maia fight and the Edgar and Yair Rodrigeuz fight, and it kind of blew up in their face a little bit. So I can't quite say that it was this sort of overwhelming event, but nevertheless quite good. I also had some people reach out to me and say they find Jedrzejczyk boring. That's not a sentiment I agree with, but I think it's interesting to think about why they would say that. You might be like, oh my God, they're the dumbest people on earth. I know experienced, smart combat sports fans who feel that way. I don't feel that way. I'm sure many of you don't feel that way. But it will be interesting to see if there are enough fans out there like that, how big of a star can she really be? We already know how talented she is. Two different questions. Anyway, a different question for a different topic and a different time anyway. Right now, let's do this. Demian Maia impressed the hell out of me because I remember about a minute and 30 seconds into the first round, there he was backpacking Jorge Masvidal, who can do it all. Wrestle, strike, jiu-jitsu, the whole business. How does he do it? He's got these weird takedowns that don't make any sense. So I went back and I watched the tape and I tried to make sense of it, and I figured out a few things. I'd like to share that with you right now. If you talk to a wrestling coach and you showed them the wrestling of Demian Maia, they would say he might do a couple things well, but he does a lot of things poorly. I remember once when I interviewed Chael Sonnen in one of my first or second technique talks, I asked him about the quote-unquote wrestling of Demian Maia, and his response was, in a very serious way, it wasn't shticky Chael Sonnen, it was actual analyst Chael Sonnen, and his response was, no, it's not good. But what Chael said was also really interesting, and what he said was, it's not technical by wrestling standards, but that's not the issue. The issue is it effective? And by that measurement, there's just no argument about it. When we measure sometimes a guy's takedown ability, we do so in terms of, does he have a Daniel Cormier high amplitude throw? Does he have, I don't know, some kind of traditional double leg with a great penetration step, all those things. And those are important, but it's not the only way to measure whether or not you get the guy down, whether or not you get the guy down relatively quickly, and whether or not you find yourself in an advantageous position. And if you can do this fight over fight, can you replicate this against a variety of different opponents? There's just no denying that Demian Maia can do that. Now, we don't have time to go over all the ways in which he has done this against other opponents. I believe BJJ Scout has like a longitudinal study on guard passing. I haven't seen him in a while, so you have to forgive me. But shouts to BJJ Scout, who I know has done some work in this field as well. So just Google BJJ Scout and Demian Maia, and I'm sure gold will come up at some point. All right, but for this purposes, we're just going to look at how did Demian Maia, this gentleman here, take this guy down. First round, at 3:32, Demian Maia is on his back. How did that happen? All right, let's figure that out. It was great watching him. It's always interesting watching a guy doing something unusual. So here he is. He is standing southpaw. Masvidal standing orthodox. You can see he is the one taking center. Masvidal working on the outside here. All right. What does he do? Kind of takes a step in. You can see Demian Maia feinting a little bit, kind of like, jerking forward with his head. And then Masvidal backs up, and Demian Maia shoots. He shoots for the left leg. You're going to see this later. I don't know if that's the case here because he was standing left leg forward. What you're going to see is he goes for this left leg, but I don't know if he meant to go for this left leg. Maybe he did in this one, but I know in the next round he goes for the left leg, and you can tell he didn't really care about going for the left leg. What he wanted to do was force a certain kind of reaction out of Jorge Masvidal so he could get an underhook and an overhook with his leg, and leg entanglement. That's what he's looking for over and over and over and over again. He wants an underhook and his leg stepping over your leg, both of those on the same side. He wants his left under your right. He wants his left leg stepped over your right. That's what he wants. But he shoots on the left here. Look at this great, great sprawl from Jorge Masvidal. Why is this important? Number one, his weight's on top. This feels heavier than it might look, by the way, when you're on your knees like this. He doesn't just go hips down, straight back. He's against the fence. He turns the corner away. His hips are facing in this direction. He's on top. This is really great for him. You could tell he knew if he was getting close to the fence, he didn't just need to sprawl. He needed to sprawl and cut the corner at the same time, putting his weight on top, and he does that. He's also got the arm inside against the hip. But it's not enough because here comes that underhook. Now he's blocking the hip, one hand down here for Demian Maia, but I want to make it notice of something that you're going to pay attention to the rest of this podcast. It is not enough to stop the takedown of Demian Maia. He will find a way through directional change and through unorthodox, very uncommon, what would ordinarily be low percentage techniques if it was anybody else, find a way through a entanglement to reset a position or to get a takedown or a back take from it. The only way to stop this guy is to disentangle. You want no physical contact. This is so valuable to Demian Maia because he can do so much with it as long as your body is touching his. And if he has some inside control as well, because that will help him manipulate weight and get his own weight around it, right? But you have got to separate. If you do not separate, you don't have a prayer. So what do you notice here? Now Demian Maia, while Masvidal has created a nice angle, got his weight down, driving weight into a direction that you would think would be hard for Demian Maia, what he's really done is, because there's still connectivity and the way in which Masvidal has stuffed the shot, it allows Maia to drive his elbow back, hand out, and come around for an underhook. Part one of the equation, he's got. Now, as you can see, he's going to scoot his body around. Masvidal's going to try and get up and get out of the way and maintain an angle, but it's going to be hard when someone's got that underhook on you. They've got the inside control. They have the ability to go hip to hip in certain ways. That's going to be just a little bit easier. So he does that. Here he comes. Getting up, looks for a baseball slide. You can see Masvidal's trying to whizzer him hard over, but the one with the underhook here is in a better shape, even if he's sort of landed on one palm here. It's a weird way in which he's doing it. And then you come and you step around. What do you see here? Look at him. This head goes to this leg, toes pointed out. This is the head of Demian Maia. The one around the top is excuse me, the one here is Jorge Masvidal. The one around the top is Demian Maia. Demian Maia has an underhook and an over-the-top hook with his leg on the same side. Guys, if you've never trained jiu-jitsu, you don't understand how significant this is. This is hugely, hugely significant. If you have an underhook and the step side, and the leg step over the same side, so left under right, left over right, you have control of the hip, of the leg, of the shoulders. You can manipulate their direction. You can double off this way. You can spin them around and trip them. You can yank their weight out and go on top. It gives you such control over their body like that. That's why inside control, pummeling is just so essential. And you can see Demian Maia is a bit of a master of it, especially if you can lay a guy flat and you can control his head, which you're going to see. You can see him pinning him here. Do a little experiment. Put your back against the wall, but then for 1 second, only glue like your hips and your rear end to it, and then sort of reach around the room and try to grab things. Then pin your shoulders to it and the back of your head to it, and then stick your arms out. You obviously have much less control about what you can do. Driving someone like that while scooping their leg out, blocking a direction at the same time, this can be very, very difficult to do anything about. So you can see here, Demian Maia might try like an outside single, block him and take him this direction. Right? Let's see what he may not have to, because he can go another direction too. Let's see what he does here. Right now, good job on Masvidal driving his foot down. This looks like a really awesome control space. I bet you Demian Maia has super strong lats, because once he gets behind someone's leg, that ability to pull them into him while keeping the rest of his core strength and balance is not an automatic thing. You have to work on that. I'm guessing my man here has really strong lats where he's able to pull that weight into him. You can see him do it all the time. And look here, he's got an overhook here. Let's see what he can do with it. Maia falls to a knee so he can get his weight on top of the thigh. You can see here there's distance between them, right? So what's he going to do? He's going to collapse that distance so he can get, again, if your elbow is close to your ribs, you are, say it with me, strong. If your elbow is away from your body, say it with me, you are weak. So he brings that elbow to his ribs while getting behind that. What's he going to do with it? Let's see. He's going to step around that leg. And you might be, this is another advantage to being Demian Maia. A lot of guys might get choked here. I don't think Demian Maia is too worried about your choke. It doesn't matter if you're Jorge Masvidal or anybody else, right? So he's going to step around. As he does, it's going to be like a head outside single. He's not merely going to take him this direction. He's going to take him down and then spin him to the part of the structure where there's an open space. Where is there an open space? Well, it's open where the foot ordinarily would be. So it's not just this way, it's down and this way, spinning him around to the open space, right? Like that. Comes around to the bottom. Look, he's not driving. He could drive him straight back like a blast double. It's not what he's going to do. He's going to spin him. And partly, not merely to finish the takedown, but to press him into the cage, right? Like that. Boom. Now, you can see what Masvidal is going to do here is keep this on his shoulder to prevent him to further controlling in on his hips. He's going to spread his base so he can get it up under him. He's going to put his leg behind him so that lets him get his base up under him like that. Right? He's going to stand. He's going to try and create space. He wants to get this leg on the outside of what Demian Maia does. But Demian Maia has his left leg up first, still blocking the ability of Masvidal to do that. Right? He's going to stand up. He's going to eat a few punches along the way. All right, fair enough. And so here again, stepping on the outside. Let's see if he goes this direction. Let's see what he does with this takedown as he gets up and the picture here renders. Now Masvidal's doing better. He's getting that leg on the outside. That's good. That's really good. He's also got this sort of it's a blocking mechanism around the shoulder of Demian Maia. Prevents it a little bit. I mean, you would want ordinarily in the best case scenario, you'd want shoulder to hip, ear to chest. He doesn't get quite that when that hand by Masvidal is inside of there, right? But he's going to keep turning him, as I mentioned before. Look where they are. Look at this. First Metro PCS and Masvidal are facing you, kind of away. Kind of away. Now he's on the other side of it, and then down. Spun him all the way that way, right? He's taking him in the direction where the structure doesn't exist. He needs that other leg to balance. He's taking it away and then bringing him into that open space while pushing as well. Gets him down. Credit to Masvidal. He's got that hand posted. This is not Masvidal is not going quietly into that good night. You know, got to give the guy credit, all right? So here he is. Now he's on his base. What is Demian Maia going to do? He's also on his base, on his knees anyway, as this picture renders here. He's going to switch his grip. Look here. He's around the leg. This arm is going to come around the hip. He's going to go to the hips, right? Still on the inside, the leg is. He's going to come around. Can't quite get it there for reasons that remain unclear. So here he is still chasing it. Still got that underhook because there's still body contact, right? What's he going to do? He's going to sit. He's going to look away. Look at him here. He's facing down, right? He's going to look to his left, right? Drive that underhook up deep. Why is he going to do that? It's going to force the weight a certain way on Jorge Masvidal. And look at all this open space. This is what I mean when I say he has super unorthodox techniques. It almost looks like he's going for a peek out. A peek out would be from this position, more or less. It's a little bit different. But from this position, you would do this. You would baseball slide out towards us, the viewer, and then you would step around with this leg to go behind the back. You can do that. If you have an underhook underneath, it's a famous wrestling technique. If you're underneath someone and they're on top of you, it's called a peek out. You baseball slide more or less, laterally away, step around with the outside leg, all in one fast motion, and now you got their back, right? Not like a jiu-jitsu back, but I've got a nice tight waist around you. You think that's what he's going for here, but that's not what he's going for. He doesn't need that at all. He's not going to beat you wrestling for wrestling. He's going to beat you doing shit like this. Oh, he's going to baseball slide all right, but not for a peek out. Now, what has he got? Once again, when this picture renders here, just give it a moment. I promise it looks better than this. He's got an underhook, and he has stepped over on the same side. You's in trouble, as Jar Jar Binks might say. Look at that. Isn't that nuts? There's nobody in the game who does this. Literally nobody. He is face down. You think he might be going for a peek out. He creates an open lane by looking to his left. He baseball slides just to sit closer so he can take his outside leg and wrap yours. Look, you're driving. If you're Masvidal, you're driving off that back leg because you think you want to be live toes so you can drive weight into it. But what do you do when you live toes? Right? When you drive your weight off of your back foot, you're planting in the ground. You can't drive weight forward if your foot's not connected, can you? So you're planting that foot, whoop, and there he comes, right around the back. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. There is nobody who does this. Nobody who does it this well. It's insane what he's able to do. And now he can do whatever he wants. He can scoot his hips up the side, double off that direction. He can Homer Simpson sweep. He can throw you forward and do, Eddie Bravo techniques. I mean, he's got you dead to rights here. All right, so look at him. What's he going to do? He's going to suck that leg in, and he's going to come to his base. Masvidal knows he's in trouble here. He knows it, right? Boom. Look at him. He's grabbed the leg. He's still got the underhook. Less around the waist, more around the leg itself. He's going to stand up here. He's still got that leg sucked. He's really good. This is hard to do. It takes a lot of balance. Marcelo Garcia has a lot of turnovers like this as well. Here we are. Comes up. Now look what he's got. He's got the whole outside right leg. Look at this. This whole part right here, when he stands, is blocked. Well, what does that mean? Guess which direction he's going to go? That way and probably spin him. Not merely that way, but that way and spin him. Let's see if he does that. Oh, they go the other way because you have a number of options. They spin into the cage, but he's still got the same mechanism set up. He's still got that outside leg blocked. So what's he going to do? Look at it. Still got it blocked. Let's see what happens here. Masvidal, I believe, tries to square his hips on him and create space and get his leg back. So what does Maia do? He's going to reach around the bottom and trip the post leg and send him that way, like that. Boom. Crashing to the canvas. Ridiculous. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, there is not a guy in the game who does this. The most unique takedowns. It's a weird combination of guard pulling, wrestling, tripping, like judo trip. It's completely unique. Completely unique. So now Masvidal tries to stand, doing a lot of the normal things you would do to wall walk. You're going to see Masvidal is not going to give up his back here. Maia's going to try and take it. Can't quite get it. It's not really there. And remember, he might know it's not there. He might be threatening it to get a certain reaction. Always remember that. So it's not there, can't get it to work. So he tries to go around the other side, still can't get it to work. Even if you can put your legs over someone, which he probably could here if he really wanted to, that doesn't mean it's the right time to do it. That there is space to do it is not the same way of saying it's the appropriate moment to do it. Because you might do it, it might be loose, you might lose it, and they can get away. You want to sink the hooks not merely when they're open, but when they're open and available. And available is a bit of a different definition. He's standing here, he's hand fighting. Maybe you can squeeze that over, but maybe you can't. Just wait your turn, right? And he does. So he's still pressing him here, ear locked to the back. All right, what's he going to do? He's close to the fence, so Maia's going to walk him backwards, and look what he's going to do here. Outside leg is going to trip the inside leg, and he's going to yank him over to the canvas using motion and blocking at the same time. Almost what a sweep is, if you really think about it. We've talked about it. What is a sweep? You have to raise someone off of their base, block a side, and take them to it. It's kind of what he does here. He doesn't raise him off of his base, but he gets him in motion, which means he can use that force to send him a direction. He's going to block it, whoop, and there he goes, crashing to the canvas again. And now you've got a much better position. Why? When this renders here, I'll show you, and I apologize here for taking so long to render, because look where his knee is now. Look where his hands are now. He's got control of the waist and the upper body. There's not a block between the elbow and the knee or the elbow and the hip like there was before for Masvidal. It's a lot more open space. And as this guy tries to get from an elbow, which he is on now, to his hands, you can just imagine he's going to create some opportunities. Demian Maia knows this. It's a much easier way to get where you want to go in terms of taking to the back. Demian Maia is a gangster, folks. I don't know how else to say it. Here he goes. He's going to take this step as Masvidal takes a step. That's how he does it. He times it at the exact same time. You can't quite tell from the slides, but what you see Masvidal doing here at this moment at 340, he's trying to get to his base by getting his feet up, or he's on his base, but getting his feet up under him. And as he does that, that's the exact moment that he swings that hook around, and he's actually going to try and block the left side here. Now, for a moment, he's going to let this go, right? And here's why he lets it go. Right around 339 or so, he's going to let this go. 337, he comes to the side because it's not quite right, but he's still got his weight down. He's driving into him. He knows with his rear end sort of close to his ankles here, Masvidal, that Maia knows he's got another opportunity to take this back, which is exactly what he's going to do. Look at that. As Masvidal takes a step, you can see it's blurry and in motion. So is this one. He is timing his hook taking as Masvidal has a hand down and is bringing a leg up because there's a whole pocket there. And this arm, ladies and gentlemen, remember in jiu-jitsu, if you can set it up, you don't want to take a space and just try and race someone to it. You want to hold it and then replace something. This arm is holding this spot open for this leg. He is going to hold this with his arm. His forearm is going to keep that space open. Then the hook comes in and the hand comes out or the arm comes out. That's what he's doing. He is waiting for Masvidal to put a hand down and to step up. He's going to hold it with his arm and then bring the hook in so that way you know the real estate is there for you when you want to take it. Woo, he is good. And then he comes around and he takes the other one as well. Now, this one actually misses a little bit. So what he does is he holds it. I mean, look, everything's good in theory and everything works in practice, even when you're Demian Maia. So he holds it a little bit, waits to stand, then puts it over on top. I think he may have been waiting for the arm, or he changed his mind at the last minute, but you get the idea. So he stands, and then 333, here he is, crosses his ankles. He has taken him down and taken the back at what time of the first round? This time of the first round. Sorry, this photo's taking a while to render. Come on, here we go. 332. Look at that. Body triangle on his back at 332. Took him about 1 minute and 28 seconds to get there. Sounds like an eternity. That's nothing. Here you are carrying perhaps the best jiu-jitsu fighter ever in MMA on your back 1 minute and 28 seconds into the first round. Ridiculous. Now, let's take a look at that second round. All right, here's the second round. Now, we're actually going to avoid the third round because in the third round, he just kind of Maia catches a kick and then just drives Masvidal into the fence. Doesn't really, it's not that big a deal in terms of how he did it. It's really the first and the second rounds. And this is the second round. Now, as you can see, in this particular case, it's a little bit different. Now, 1 minute and 30 has already passed before he even really attempts anything. Just keep that in mind. So you could tell he was tired from that. I mean, that a minute and 30 is not nothing. It's both amazing that he was able to do it, and also that's a lot to take someone down. Try and take someone down for a minute and 28 seconds and get to the back. That can be costly. And remember, he's a big welterweight. It's hard for him to get down to that weight. So just really impressive. Anyway, impressive but costly. All right, how about that? So here we are in the second round. They're facing off, middle of the cage. This is going to be good for Jorge Masvidal. So here comes Demian Maia. He's going to shoot, middle of the cage. You can see Masvidal is going to read it, and then he's going to sprawl. This is good. He's got one hand here. I think he needs two hands here because he's got one hand here and he's got one hand as an overhook. Well, if you've got an overhook on that one side, what does Maia have? He's got an underhook, doesn't he? He's halfway home. And also, what do you notice about them? They're connected. You have got to separate. That's why I'm saying you need two hands up front, because you want two hands up front. You want a hand on the head. You want a hand on the shoulder, and you want to be able to get away. That's so critical. It's not merely stopping the takedown. It's stopping the takedown and creating separation. I've talked about that with other grapplers in the past getting stuck against the fence, or rather strikers. You see some strikers who've worked on their takedown defense, and they don't go to the ground, but they spend their whole rounds or the whole fight with their backs pinned against the cage, unable to really do anything. It's the same kind of situation with Maia. Yes, he's not against the cage, but if he can at least maintain contact with you in some kind of way, he can grab a hold of you, and it's just a major problem. So here he is. He's going to sit out. Now, Masvidal, I believe, is going to get away with this one, except, oh, wait a second. No, he's not. Look at this. He's going to flying scissor guard pull something where he's just going to stand on this leg. He's going to almost do what's called a technical stand-up. And from his left leg posting on the ground and his right hand posting on the ground, his right leg is going to scoop around. Look at him, still trying to get away. You got to get your feet away. You got to step out and away. Here he is. This is like, if a white belt did this, they'd get their guard sliced through immediately because you're separating your feet and your knees from your hips. You're not keeping everything compact. You know, if this was somebody else, he would get absolutely torched. But Masvidal doesn't want to play the guard passing game with Demian Maia, understandably, right? And here comes Maia sitting up again. Look at him, right on it. Back to that right leg, too, by the way, I'll have you note. All right? Here he is. He's going to try and suck it in. That's that foot of Demian Maia coming around. You can see he's behind the leg, though. He can't quite get it. So Maia is going to sit up. He's got one leg here. He's trying to stand with this one. This arm is blocking his ability to really get around and grab fully with his muscles there, and to properly balance his weight into him and get. But so he's missing some components here that he needs. And you can see he's going to try and stand, get his weight on top of the leg. Let's see. He's on his knees though. Wrestling on your knees, not so great. So let's see what he does here. All right. He's going to stand, and as he stands, now he's got the leg between him. You can see. The picture hasn't quite rendered yet, which I apologize for. But you can sort of see here, it'll render in just a second. The elbows are going to be close to his hips. You can see the leg is going to be between his legs. God damn, photo, will you render? Jesus. There we go. So here he is. He's got this arm in between, so he can't quite get up on that hip like he wants to. It's acting like a blocking mechanism. That's good. But he wants this foot on the outside, not in between. And anytime this is here, he's got a lot of options. He can run him in which direction? This direction. This way. Where is the open, where is the structure of the piece missing? Take him to it. Just like that, right? So he's going to try, but he's going to switch grips now. Look at him before. Two hands on the leg. He's going to turn him and then grab the outside hand around the waist. That's what he's looking for there. He can double off here if he wants to. Let's see what he does. All right, can't quite do it. Masvidal gets his leg free, so that's critical. Masvidal's still fighting, man. You could tell this guy prepared, and we knew he was talented, but you can tell he prepared as well. So you got to give him credit for it, right? So there's that. All right, and Maia tries to keep a hold of him, and he can't. He's got bicep control. He's got a hand inside the shoulder. Now that's good. He's got total inside control here. Masvidal does, and he's able to get away, and he even cracks him with a shot here. At 311. So the first attempt failed. So you think, all right, Masvidal might have him figured out here. Let's see what happens. But he can't quite do it, so they separate. Let's go here. I'm going to let this render here. He's going to shoot again. This was only moments later. He didn't wait a long time to get in on him. 308. Let's go back. Where was he before? Yeah, 311. 3 seconds later, he's in on him, shooting right here. Boom. Second time, and you can see, look, he's got a hand on the far outside leg. It's a nice deep shot, man. He's got a decent shot. Not a great shot, but a decent shot. And it's a well-timed shot, too, right? He doesn't waste time. What does he have here? He's got the underhook. I'm telling you, you look at this, you think, I'm going to go to wrestling practice. I'm going to try this. It's not going to work, man. He's got this whole thing figured out in a way that nobody else has. So he's got a hand posted here. He's got this posted here. What's he going to do? Is he going to go for a wrestling peek out? I don't think so. He's going to go here. Let's see what he can do with it. 306. He's going to bring him on top of him. He's going to almost like pull guard on top of him. He's going to sit that leg through, that bottom right leg, and he's going to pull Masvidal on top of him and almost, it's what I would call a loose deep half, right? Because you don't have control here. The other hand's not tucked underneath the thigh. There's a few things wrong with it. But the whole point is to establish contact. Guy on top doesn't want contact with the guy on the bottom. Guy on the bottom just needs a little bit of contact, and he can create havoc for you. So how does he do it? Here he is. He's going to come out. His bottom leg is going to block Masvidal's before Masvidal can pull it out. Boom. Got it. There it is. And he's got that, an underhook that he turned into an overhook of the leg, essentially. All right? He's going to sit up. Masvidal turns the corner. That's good. Let's see what happens with it, right? Look at him driving his weight, whizzering in hard. I would like to see him whizzer even harder, push the head down and step away, but easier said than done, right? He's going to control that wrist. What is Maia going to do? He's going to step up. We're only like 9 seconds later. Let's see what Maia does. Oh, there goes that foot. What do you think's going to happen? I think we know how this movie's going to end, don't we? Here comes the other leg. Here, look here closely. Look at the two legs. This is the left leg of Demian Maia. This is the right leg of Demian Maia. Here comes the other one. Right around. Now, I don't think he gets it right away, does he? Hard to tell here. Oh, yes, he does, because he sucks it in. He sucks it in underneath him. This can be it's not merely a blocking mechanism. It can be a sucking mechanism as well. He's going to grab on top and then pull that weight out from under him, forcing Masvidal's base down. And that allows you to get your base up and on top of it, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Now, he actually falls here a little bit to his side, and I wondered why at first, and I think it's just so he can get his weight on top of him, because I think he feels comfortable if I can get your weight on top of me, and I've got some controlling mechanisms, I can do things with it, I can manipulate it, I feel comfortable in that space. Let's play a jiu-jitsu game. I think I'll win more times than I won't. And so here's what he does. Look at him here. I want you to notice something. This is where Maia, I mean, it's hard to separate when you're like this, but Masvidal should have found a way. Maia, elbow to knee. So this is a really effective open half guard underneath. I really like this. A lot of people leave a space in between here. He's got the knee in the shoulder. He's got his elbow to his sort of thigh, keeping a blocking mechanism. Not sure what the bottom hand is doing because it's blocked, but you can see that nice tight spacing. He begins to open it. Look at him, still connecting though, so he doesn't create an open passing lane. Right? Not that Masvidal is necessarily a passing threat, but just good fundamentals here. And it also creates a stable structure by which to keep him a little bit at distance. So here we go. What does he do? He's going to kick open. As soon as I saw this, I was like, Masvidal, you got to get away, dude. Why is he going to kick open? Here, it's closed. Think about this. Oops, sorry about that. He's going to kick this open. So why? To me, what you want is, if you can control this person's leg and you have an underhook here, you can double off that way. You can get behind them. There's a lot you can do. And I think he's going to be ready for a sit-up here, which he does. Bingo. Now, Masvidal does get the arm in here, so he doesn't quite have the underhook ready, and he still has the left one hooked in, the right one hooked in, not the left one. So it's not quite exactly what he wants, but that doesn't matter because he can use that to turn himself into Masvidal one direction, right? He's going to suck Masvidal's hips out from under him. That's what that leg is for. As I sit up, I'm necessarily, because of the hook, going to bring yours out and under. He's going to use that to sit up, and then watch this. Turns him the other way. Look at that. Isn't that great? Crazy, right? Here he is. Open half guard. All right? A lot of people don't play this correctly. Creates space, sits up, can't quite get the underhook. Doesn't matter because he's got that leg sucked in. He's going to turn this way to suck Masvidal's base into him so he can go the other direction where it's blocked and turn him into it. And takes him down. and then he does what's called a tripod. Again, BJJ Scout has this whole thing on Demian Maia's tripoding for weight distribution. Go check that out. But I just want to make a note here. Demian Maia is incredible, man. What a talent this guy is. It doesn't look pretty. It looks kind of weird. By wrestling standards, it's not at all what you're supposed to do. But here he is, your #1 contender in arguably MMA's toughest division. Demian Maia is just an absolute treasure to watch. And last but certainly not least, let's take a look at what's coming up in the week ahead. No UFC this weekend, but there is Bellator, and one of the best Bellator events in quite some time. Bellator 179, McDonald versus Daly. This will be at the SSE Arena in London, England on Friday, not Saturday, I believe. May 19th, which, let's see. Here we go. Okay, Google. May 19th, 2017. Let's see. Pulls up the calendar just to make sure. And yes, it's a Friday. Headline, Rory McDonald taking on Paul Daly in your main event, the return of McDonald. That should be a blast. Liam McGeary is back in action against Linton Vassell. Chet Congo against Augusto Sakai. That should be an absolutely dreadful contest. Dan Edwards versus Alex Lahore. And then Kimbo Slice Jr., Kevin Ferguson Jr., taking on DJ Griffin. Neil Grove is on the undercard, as are a few other odds and ends on that SpikeTV.com card. Now, I'm not sure when that's going to start in America. It's set for Spike TV at 9 p.m., but I don't think it's going to start at, whatever, 5-6 hours ahead London is. So, going to have some weird moments there. I don't know how that's all going to work, but we'll figure it out in the days ahead. That's the big stuff coming up as well. Michael Page, of course, was supposed to fight Derek Anderson, but he got injured. So, there you go. All right. If you have any questions, new email address, LukeThomasNews@gmail.com. Please give me a like and a follow on Instagram. It is Facebook.com/LukeThomasNews, Instagram.com/LukeThomasNews, and my new Twitter handle, LThomasNews. It's I still got the same amount of followers. I lost my verification badge because you lose that when you switch. I've applied for a new one. Hopefully I get it. But it's LThomasNews. Give me a follow there as well on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy the fights.